Hello everyone, my name is Betharn and I welcome you back to part 3 of our Space Engineers Planetary Survival Guide. Now what we are planning on doing is building this guy right over here. We're more or less established on our makeshift base. The only problem is in order to build our more permanent base here, we need ore coming in so we can create ingots without taking apart what we got, since we're kind of running low on resources. So we need this guy to actually accomplish that because hand mining is terrible. I did a couple things. We can now access our solar panels that way. They're getting 3 pips a piece, so that's a pretty decent power inflow. That should help us out. I left this chair for a reason. You'll see why as soon as we get ready to build our base. In the meantime, let's go ahead and... I was talking about using what is deemed a welding wall or welding pit or whatever. Just depends on how you build it or whatever you consider it. Use your base to build ships for you. I'm going to actually use this ship, but I'm going to make it less of a problem by... I didn't fully finish this panel. And we're going to take apart this grinder. And it's going to want us to rebuild a grinder. However, just ran out of hydrogen. Thought I had refilled that. I guess not. We are going to build another welder there. And like I said previously, if you... Just like you just saw me grab a couple of pipes and motors. The difference between resources is 2 pipes and 2 motors. So it's very easy to swap these arms out. So we're gonna grab this and just plop it on here and ignore our projector for the moment. Let's build this welder on up. And I went ahead and I placed down. Okay, it's built. We're missing a couple of construction components. I don't know where they went. Maybe I grinded them off, who knows. But it doesn't really matter, it'll still function. We're going to take it apart again later, probably. Actually, I'm not 100% sure if that's functional, so I'm going to grab some construction components first. Right click and drag. Allows you to pick a specific amount. Why is it white? Oh, you know what? Oh, well, that would be why. Okay, I just didn't color it. Fair enough. Alright, so now I basically moved all of our components into the ship, except for what's on me. We're going to need a couple of radio components, I believe. Maybe not. I don't even think it has an antenna. Detector components and a couple reactor components. I think I have an emergency reactor on it, but I'm not sure. The only thing I don't have is power cells, because I want to wait till the last minute before I activate the power cells. The batteries on it. So we're going to press 6 on bar number 2. That'll switch our batteries to be able to be used, and then we'll press 7 to enable our engines so we don't fall like a rock. So now we're good to go. Press 9 to detach, 8 turn off our connector so we don't have any problems. And we are going to come over here and we're going to grab our second welder, which isn't named or anything. Let's go ahead and put it on number 3 here. Toggle on off. So we'll toggle both welders on. They got that little red line, so that should work. And now this should work out pretty easily with the 2 welders especially, if it's fixed, because there was a bug where welders did not work. And don't tell me it's still in the game. There it goes. Alright, so that guy's constructed, and now it should start laying in all the parts and using all of the components inside of the ship to weld everything. Now, one of the features / annoyances with ship-mounted welding tools is the more blocks that they are tasked to work on, the slower they go, and it doesn't seem to be linear per se. So if you have 10 blocks, it doesn't take you 10 times as long to do those 10 blocks. It supposedly takes you like 50 times as long. So you generally want to be careful, especially when you're building smaller ships, on doing things like that where you get a whole bunch, because it seems to take a lot longer. Smaller ships with building a smaller ship with a projector with a fabrication ship like this is usually pretty easy because of the size of the ship, because the welding beams can go through at least one large block. It can go basically through at least half the ship. So as long as I have access to this quadrant and then the other 3 quadrants from every direction, you can weld everything even in the middle of the ship, which you might miss when you hand weld. When I was building this guy, so I toggle the projector on and off to kind of give me more of a chance to build the things before I accidentally place new blocks. As you can see though, I'm having some problems with it building things, and I'm not sure why. I used to not have this much problem with smaller ships. I should have plenty of components. There's a way where if you're in first person, it'll do like your hand tool and tell you what's wrong, but it's very, very hard to pull off in a ship nowadays for some reason. I suppose if I was looking right at this engine on my crosshairs, it would tell me what I'm missing, if I'm missing anything, but it doesn't seem to want to do that lately. So you also have to, it could just be me being in the way, you have to be out of the block that's being built. And that's one of the more effective ways of using this ship to build a large grid ship, for instance, is if you actually you place yourself in the actual block, it won't build the block, so you can get components built inside the ship without locking yourself out from range with your welding torches. So we'll keep working on this guy. He's getting, I'm going to toggle these off real quick, and I'm going to double check to make sure I got all the components. I'm missing motors. I could flat out not have enough motors because you see I have no motors. So that would be one reason why. If you look in the bottom left, the one thing I was trying to get working is SE toolbox or something, where you can scour one of your game saves and find the components required for everything on a ship, and it will give you an easy component list for a blueprint that you're going to be using, and then you can make sure you can actually use my built-in LCDs to kind of track the components you need. So what I'm going to just do is grab a ton of these because the ship can handle it. Welders, why there's components in here. Alright, so this has 47,000, and then there's an extra whatever, so it brings it up to about 48. Again, the ship can hold about 90,000 or 60,000 extra weight from its base, so you can hit to about 100,000. So now that I have enough motors, hopefully this will actually start building the things back here. Alright, there we go, now we're in business. Alright, so now we're cruising, so it's going to build all these things. This ship is one of my most basic designs originally, and then I've kind of expanded it because I like my ships to look nice. It doesn't cost a whole lot of resources, especially on small grids, to add extra things. Like every one of those extra armor plates, the biggest problem they have impart to the ship isn't even building cost, because it's only a single steel plate per. It's the actual weight it adds to the ship, and it really isn't that much. It's very useful. One of the reasons I have it built this way is it can be built without these armor plates and be lighter and be a little more efficient. The problem is especially if you're a newer player and you're using this pattern, for instance, it gives you a lot more leeway when you're mining and you're not 100% down with how to do it on a planet. If you bump into stuff, you can lose. If you hit, like if I didn't have these armor plates around the engines, if you bashed against the wall too hard, you would knock off all of your engines in a huge chunk, and even maybe a battery, which is one of the more expensive early game items, and it would cause more problems than it would solve by not armoring it. So I like to have my ships at least reasonably armored with strips at least. It's really hard on small grid ships to enclose the entire thing, and usually the weight that comes with it, I did an early iteration of the Gremlin I'm currently flying like that, and it doesn't really come out that well in my opinion. Generally, when you're going to encase a ship in armor, you're going to be using a large grid, and it's going to be a specific design that you have in mind, as opposed to trying to squeeze a bunch of armor plates around a smaller ship here, because you have so much less surface space and stuff to play with, especially weight requirements, because the smaller engines generally are less efficient than the larger engines. And as you can see, this is going exponentially faster than hand building. You can hand build this in the higher settings for welding, grinding, and inventory much faster. obviously, then you could do it by hand now, probably in the same amount of time, if not faster than I'm doing it right now. One of the huge advantages, however, if you're going to play the projector style versus the makeshift build it as you go style, which a lot of the Let's Plays and tutorials that I've seen of this game have, is that you have to know what you're doing, or just play around, which is good. You should go into creative and play with some of the higher settings, or play a normal game like that, and then play around and figure out how these ships actually work if you want to build your own. But one problem with hand building projector ships, even if you're doing it on a higher inventory setting, is that it is a pain, like I was doing in the second episode, is toggling the projector on and off and doing things like that to actually get it built and making sure you place the blocks you want. One of the advantages with the ship to build with the ship-based welding torch instead of the hand tool is, again, the fact that you can basically send the welding arc through blocks. So you just kind of like put this guy right here in this area and he'll just generally build everything. Because there's a whole bunch of little blocks underneath this armor plate with that red light. Not really on this one, more on the Gremlin, but on the side behind this light, actually, there's a whole bunch of little blocks that if you accidentally built the armor plate over them, you'd have to rip it down and then make sure you carefully place the block behind it, and then make sure you build it before you accidentally place the armor block in front of it again. So it's much nicer to just have a welding torch that'll basically teleport through the blocks and do everything in the back for you without you having to worry too much about it. Now we're having problems again. We might actually be out of motors again because atmospheric thrusters take a ton of motors, even the small ones. And motors are one of the heavier items, but I am missing, I know I've got steel plates. Yeah, I have 600 steel plates still, which you can see in here too. While it's here, I'm gonna put this in here. While it's welding, I don't know why it's missing that. There it goes. I don't think I have show buildable only on, which is causing a little bit of problems for me, I guess. All right, so we're gonna come in here, and if you push your K menu and you go to the materials one, if I explain this a lot, this is the thing you can use to know what components you need. It's not that useful, honestly. After I designed it, I thought it was cool, but you just write these down on paper. You have to figure these out at some point anyway, and you write them on paper. And all you have to do is just drag them from your inventory on your ship. But it's kind of cool to have it on the side here, like if you want. If there's a way to auto update it, it'd be great. But on the right, it shows that, hey, I need 1,000 steel plates. If I don't have 1,000 steel plates, it'll say, hey, you only have 645 out of the 1,000 that you need, which is, I thought, a really cool command to play with. It's just not as practical as I had hoped. But one of the reasons I like about this cockpit is you can actually tab out your interface here like this, and this ship is more or less flyable completely without the inbuilt interface. You can see we got a bunch of damage to the ship somehow. Some spotlights are damaged, corner LCDs are damaged, the cockpit's damaged. It could be because I didn't finish them completely when I built it. But it gives you your mass total over here. I think ship mass. I think I gave it a max total, so it's at 79 megagrams, which is 79,000 kilograms. And it can hold about 100. I think I gave it a thing, so that's kind of your progress bar. So if you fill that progress bar up, you're going to have maneuvering and lift problems. And then your dampeners and your speeds are on the right there on those small panels. And then, of course, the most important thing, your power is always in the center of my ship designs. And then if you want, I like this one up top, it's really cool. It's just like a little GPS coordinator thing. You won't need that until much later in the game when you kind of know what you're doing and you're playing with GPS and autopilot and laser antennas and all kinds of stuff like that. So I think this guy's getting almost done, which is pretty quick. I do need to toggle off, which I didn't do, toggle off all of the engines. I built this control pad here for a reason. I can't access it. Control panel, thrusters, turn them off so they're not eating my power. And this is my biggest gripe with the game right now, is these interactable surfaces are super bad a lot of the time. They won't let you click them, and it drives me insane. Makes the game almost unplayable at times. See, it's trying to build something, but I don't know what, and I don't know if it's because I'm missing components or not, because the feedback isn't great. So let's turn those off and let's go and make sure. So I know I have steel plates, so I know that's not the problem. This is fine for some reason and just wouldn't want to build it. That light is done. This guy is not being built for some reason. He's kind of important. I need interior plates. I could be out of interior plates because I didn't have that many remaining. See, this guy got all the parts put on it but never built for some reason. I don't have any interior plates on me. So it's mostly done. Let's see what our projector says. Control panel, projector with no modifier. So we're missing a text panel, 2 thrusters, a control panel, and 30 armor blocks on this guy. So let's go up here. See if we can get back in our cockpit in a reasonable amount of time. Apparently not. This drives me nuts. We're about to run out of hydrogen, so let's refill that. I mean, the difficulty in the game should never be fighting the interface, and that's the biggest problem with Space Engineers, is the reliability of just being able to play the game. Got it. Okay. So what we are missing is nothing. We have displays. We have internal plates. We only have a couple displays. That should be enough. I'm gonna go to hotbar 1 and grab this tool myself. There. Did that work? Nope. I don't know why this won't build. A couple of engines up here that won't build. There we go. Replaced some parts. It's a minor accomplishment. Yeah, I will want to get that station mounted welding wall up as soon as I can, because it is A, one of the coolest things in the entire game, I feel, and B, very, very efficient and nice for building ships, especially if you build your ships around the idea of using it and build things accordingly, because it's nice because if you hook it up properly to your base, it has access to every component that you have in your base. So you don't have to worry about filling this ship up. The ship's great for building like a room of your base itself, and large structures in your base, obviously like refineries, stuff that doesn't have that has very predictable large components. Just build a wall. You just need 2,000 steel plates. Load them in and just crank out the wall and weld it together. Much faster than doing it by hand. But having to manage all the little components is a pain, but you can. I'm going to set up TIM later. It's an inventory management script, which is similar to the LCD management script, but it helps you control your inventories to a much finer degree than the game normally allows with sorters. And that helps a lot, where you can keep a store of basic components inside of your gremlin, which is how I generally use it. And then you can, I do that in my main cargo hold, and then in the wings, that's odd. First person, there it goes. That's actually, that's not a conveyor block, that's a medium cargo, and there's one on this side too. So you can load in like a load of steel plates in those, and even the welding and grinding arms have the same inventory capacity as well. So you just have your basic components in your primary medium hold, or large hold on this guy, sorry, and have it just be all the basic stuff that you're not going to need tons of. But then if you're going to go build a bunch of stuff like a welding wall that has extra steel plates that you're definitely going to need, you can load in on a bunch of those extra things while your large cargo holds all of the more miscellaneous basic components. Alright, so I got that engine working, and then there's another engine that should be placing, but it's not. So this, I don't know why this, there it goes. Yeah, the ship-mounted welding wall system seems to be a lot more reliable on building small grid ships. And that's what this flat surface is right there in the front is, above the sensor. Basically, you turn that into a sprue, and you drive straight up to the wall, and then you get in range of the welding wall, and then you can open your cape menu, use remote access to access your base, and you can toggle on the grid, and then you just back up as it builds each layer of the ship, and it's really cool to see. I have a video of me and my brother building his large mega freighter using a wall that was like 30 by 30 or some silly dimension like that, and I will probably put that together and release it. That'd be really cool to show people. Right, so I'm pretty sure it's done. We can probably finish off anything super important that we missed by hand. So hotbar number 2, lock on 4, recharge batteries on 6, power down engines on 5. Our tools are off so they won't murder us. And here's, I didn't notice that happening while we were flying. This is what happens with your engines, so you need to be careful in how you design some of your base components. Like one flaw of this design, it's good for the early game, but if you're really heavy, this engine will be on full blast, and if you have your like docking component right here, this block will get damaged over time, and you'll have to repair it, and sometimes it'll get destroyed if you take too long to get to it. So it's better to do side or rear mounted connectors in the long run, but early game especially, this design works the best for me, and it's a little safer to have the bottom mounted connector, especially early game, whereas for this guy, he's really heavily armored on the bottom, so if I do drop it, unless I put it really high, he'll be fine, but this guy not so much. So this allows it to sit on the base, so if you accidentally forget to turn on your batteries or your engines, or your batteries don't have enough charge and you drop out of the sky, if you're already on the ground, nothing bad's going to happen to you, so it's not that big of a deal. Alright, so let's grab a couple of armor plates, put these in here. Now we got a couple armor plates to finish. Not all of our engines are off, so we need to grab our thruster command, turn them all off. Got a landing gear that we're not going to complete. We have 2 batteries that are not done by design, and everything else is finished. So we are done with our miner, which is wonderful news. So what we're going to do is, I guess I should just have had those components on me. So I don't know. Alright, so it's going to take multiple trips again. I should just load up the guy, but I don't want to dock him and undock him for safety reasons, and I do want it to charge so I can use him. Did I miss that? Of course I did. Right, so let's get this guy going. And then what we do need to locate is iron ore. We never did. Oops. Throw that there. And we missed a couple armor plates still, but that's not a big deal. Again, those armor plates aren't the most important thing in the world. They're mostly there to look good. You only need like 1 little armor plate there, or 2, to keep it from smashing into walls and stuff. The extra ones just make it not look super silly. So let's grab a couple armor plates, finish up these armor steel plates to finish up our armor plates. So I don't know why that's so much more effective with a hand welder. It's a little silly. Not to mention, these blocks are one of my least favorite because they're the smallest block in the game and they take the longest to build, and I have no idea why that is. Alright, so what we're going to do is, the other thing we do need to finish is this. I forgot about it. This has to be done so we can dock. So we'll go ahead and fill up our hydrogen. I have to undock our gremlin anyway. So let's grab this guy real quick, if I can. Okay. Hotbar 2, power up sequence. 6 and 7. 6 and 7. 9 detaches, and we'll be quick. So let's just toggle on with 1 and 3 our welders. Let's get this connector constructed. We should have all the parts since we have almost every component at our disposal on the gremlin. And apparently I'm wrong somehow. Right. What are we missing? Computers and construction components, which is, I think, something we are flat out of now. Let's see if I can get back in here. This is driving me nuts. Alright, so computers and construction components we do not have. They're light enough to carry, so I'm gonna go ahead, dock this guy up, charge him, and we're actually... let's go ahead and grab... what are... do you have a couple in here? Let's grab a couple of motors and a couple of tubes. Let's go ahead and rip this guy off. Should have enough room for everything, and it should give us our grinder back. We should be able to build it completely. Go ahead and stand on it while we're doing it, save us some hydrogen. Alright, so we got our grinder back. Alright, so cool. Now we can toggle on our grinder. It stayed. Yeah, see, it's supposed. That's how it's supposed to do. It messed up last time for some reason, but because we built it from the projection, that hotbar position number 2 on hotbar number 2 is that welding arm with its name and everything. So if you build it from the projection, it should always show up there. All right, so that filled us up quite a bit. We're hitting almost 80,000 kilograms, which you can check in here. 79 megagrams. So 1 megagram is 10,000. Is basically 1,000 kilograms, which is a good measurement to that. Basically, I do almost all my measurements off of that particular. I don't think I have computers from those though, so that has its construction components, but no computers. So now we have to find computers, which shouldn't be too hard actually. Let's go ahead and come up here and grab our grinder and let's rip apart a window, because that'll give us silicon to build a computer if nothing else. And we need these computers for nothing. Or these windows for nothing. We do need that chair for one more thing, and then largely we won't need it. And there's a decent number of components in it. We could have done what I'm planning on doing sooner, but what we need to do is get our, I think I was working on an arc furnace in there. We need to get our refinery and that arc furnace and the assembler working into. Basically, we need them producing stuff for us because of the settings that I use. Especially, you can't generally make shit on the fly really rapidly since I don't have the assembler speed up really high. Most people tend to do. So you're actually going to need to scale up your operations by adding more and more of that stuff. So. There's some interior plates down there for some reason. Alright, so let's get down here and dock. I still have a decent 10 minutes of power, which is 40% of our batteries. Let's go ahead a little farther. So dock, power down, 5 and 6 on hotbar number 2. Our tools are off so we don't die, since my sensor is not working at the moment. So what we need is computers, which I don't think I have access to without building. So let's go ahead and attempt to build some computers. We don't have any iron ingots. Let's see, we still have some motors. So let's disassemble a handful of motors. And then we'll get some computers built and get that constructed. Now while that's doing that, we don't need to connect at this very second. So what we're gonna do is toggle our engines back on here. Got some power in there, which is good. Control panel, thrusters, toggle on all thrusters, which we need to finish these batteries first. It's going to be using our uranium. There we go. We have our batteries finished. One of finish the other battery, then we can disconnect this guy, and it should come. 30% is the battery charge that a new battery starts with. So that should be more than enough for us to go actually find some iron. And then when we get back, we can finish our connector. See how long our flight time is first. But alright, so we can cut this guy free. And he shouldn't fall and die. But we do have our projector on, so it wants to build another one since we toggled on keep projection. We're not going to build another one, not anytime soon. So this guy's probably done, so let's get some computers started. Production, assemble. I thought we had silicon wafers. We do have some silicon wafers, so let's get just a bunch of those done. We need a decent amount of computers. So, hydrogen before we fall and die. We might need to get out of our ship at some point. Right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to find the iron. We are going to finish this connector so we can drop off immediately once we get back. And get this working. And I think the arc furnace is also finished. Did I finish it? Okay, so alright, so we're perfectly set. All we need to do is find some iron, and we are in business. I can get in my ship. I can. And this is one of okay, so 4 computers, construction, computers, displays, interior plates. That's obnoxious to the extreme. Alright, so we need computers, displays, construction components. I think we need more displays. In fact, production, displays. Displays are an odd item because they're needed on a lot of things. Don't need all of them, so we're good to go. Alright, so that should, let me double check that's updated. So our LCD panel this is how it works. I'll explain some of that more in depth later. We want to start this guy. I never did fix this from my first attempt, so I don't know why that's not updated then. I don't know why that's not working. Setup actions, to fix it, you want your programmable block in the first bar, and it should be, why is this not allowing me to do things? This is odd. This should not be a thing. Stop. Trigger actions. Okay, game. I don't know why it's not letting me do that. On, off, edit settings, browse workshop. You're gonna have to have this installed, I believe. Automatic LCDs 2 by MMaster. So make sure you're subscribed to it so it shows up in your list here. You're gonna hit OK, you're gonna check the code. Compiled successful, remember and exit. So now your programmable block works. You do the same thing with Tim later. You set your delay on your timer block to 0.01. Set it on silent so you don't hear beeping. You should be able to then drag this here and say run default argument, and then this here and say start. Why it will not let me, I have no idea. So I'm probably gonna have to dig out my timer block and rebuild it in order to try that again. So that basically makes it so that this does not work. Whatever. Alright, so we have 20 minutes of power. So we can use this for that, and that's actually not something. This thing is really quick and agile while it is empty, but it will lose some of that. I actually have, like I think I might have said, I have the gyros set to like 70%, 75% of their maximum power. You can dial those up if you need to. So what we're gonna do is look for my timer block, which I think is opposite that, so it should be in there. So let's see if we can't enact some electronic repairs to our ship. So that's the medium cargo, so there's nothing back there. So the timer block might be back here. I built a number of ships, so I can't actually remember exactly where I put the dang thing. Back here, maybe? No, that's the engine. Those are tubes. Could be back here. Yeah, there it is. So there's our timer block, so I'm gonna rip it out. Repair my medium cargo. Build my timer block. Build my armor plate back on. And then we are going to access our ship somehow. Via the cockpit. Okay. Alright, if I explain this when you're connected, this is a different ship, and this is yet another different ship. They're just different colors for every different grid attached to your mega grid. And these are one problem you will have, is again why you want to make sure you name everything properly, is if you have gremlin batteries and you attach 2 gremlins to the ships, this will control both ships' batteries the same. So you can, if you are attached and you have a friend attached to the same station with the same ship, if they toggle their batteries to recharge, it will also make your battery set to recharge. So you then detach from the station thinking that your batteries are discharging and allowing you to fly, and they will not because your friend turned them off. So not really knowing better. So be very careful with these groups. So we want to find our ship is in white. You can also use a search bar. Timer block's usually near the bottom anyway. So we'll come down here, set up actions, and we're going to want to look for our programmable block, Midas Mark 1. And is it still going to be broken? That irritates the crap out of me. Why is this not working? Hotbar number 2, maybe? Okay, I have no idea why that's doing that. I have to reload the game or something. So I'm going to start it anyway, see if it does anything. So we are charging. You can check in here without your LCDs, because the LCDs will tell you. I could have sworn I set these to recharge. I apparently did not. Alright, so it'll take 28 minutes to fully recharge that one. No. 10 minutes to recharge these. The gremlin will be fully recharged in 2 or 3 minutes. And the base will be completely out of power by the time this is full. So that's not good. So what we need is iron and uranium. And we can use our refinery for uranium, and we will use our arc furnace for iron. I use arc furnaces exclusively for iron. I never put iron in refineries, because you can get iron so easily that it's not worth wasting your efficiency refineries on it, honestly. And arc furnaces are cheap and small, and just, I love them for that. In early game, you can also use them for nickel and cobalt. They just don't do silicon, and your other metals you don't really need a lot of at all in the early game. So what we're gonna do is fly without our LCD, unfortunately, to figure out why that thing's busted. But we do need to fix our hotbars here. So we're gonna go to hotbar 2, grab our groups here. We got our batteries for the Midas Mark 1. So the whole ship is janked up. Well, that's wonderful. So my hotbars are all busted, and I have no idea why that is. I guess I'm gonna have to relog the game. So yeah, unfortunately there's some technical difficulties. There's been a lot of bugs lately. I actually had to put the recording on this on hold while the projectors did not work at all, and then they had to fix them. So I'm gonna cut this one here. We got our miner build. Next episode we're going to find some ore, get some ore coming in, refined, get some uranium so you don't have to worry about solar only, because it's not enough to power these ships, not with this few number of panels. We'll just probably extend this out once we get more resources coming in and just go crazy with solar power. Well, we'll see. I will catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.